Sir Roger George Moore KBE, Permeter, the 14th of October 1927 to 23 May 2017, was an English actor. He played the British secret agent James Bond in 7 feature films between 1973 and 1985. He is also known for playing Simon Templar in the television series The Saint between 1962 and 1969. Moore took over the role of Bond from Sean Connery in 1972, and made his first appearance as 007 in Live and Let Die, 1973. The longest-serving Bond to date, Moore portrayed the spy in 6 more films. Appointed a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador in 1991, Moore was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in 2003 for services to charity. In 2008, the French government appointed Moore a commander of the Ordre des Arts et des Lettres. Early life edit. Roger Moore was born on the 14th of October 1927 in Stockwell, London. He was the only child of George Alfred Moore, a policeman, and Lillian Lily Pope. His mother was born in Calcutta, India, of English origin. He attended Battersea Grammar School, but was evacuated to Holsworthy, Devon, during the Second World War, and attended Launceston College. He was further educated at Dr. Challoner's Grammar School in Amersham, Buckinghamshire, and then attended the College of the Venerable Bede at the University of Durham, but did not graduate. Moore studied for 2 terms at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, during which his fees were paid by film director Brian Desmond Hurst, who also used Moore as an extra in his film Trotty True. At RADA, Moore was a classmate of his future Bond co-star Lois Maxwell, the original Miss Moneypenny. Moore chose to leave RADA after 6 months in order to seek paid employment as an actor. His film idol was Stuart Granger. At the age of 17, Moore appeared as an extra in the film Caesar and Cleopatra, 1945, meeting his idol on the set. Later, Moore and Granger were both in The Wild Geese, 1978, though they had no scenes together. At 18, shortly after the end of the Second World War, Moore was conscripted for national service. On the 21st of September 1946, he was commissioned into the Royal Army Service Corps as a second lieutenant. He was given the service number 372,394. He eventually became a captain, commanding a small depot in West Germany. He later looked after entertainers for the armed forces passing through Hamburg. Carry Reddit Early work, 1945 to 1959. Edit In the early 1950s, Moore worked as a model, appearing in print advertisements for knitwear, earning him the nickname The Big Knit, and a wide range of other products such as toothpaste, an element that many critics have used as typifying his lightweight credentials as an actor. In his book Last Man Standing, Tales from Tinseltown, Moore states that his first television appearance was on the 27th of March 1949 in The Governess by Patrick Hamilton, a live broadcast, as usual in that era, and he played the minor part of Bob Drew. Other actors in the show included Clive Morton and Betty Ann Davies. M.G. Medit. Although Moore signed a 7-year contract with MGM in 1954, the films that followed were not successes and, in his own words, at MGM, RGM, Roger George Moore was NBG no bloody good. He appeared in Interrupted Melody, billed third under Glenn Ford and Eleanor Parker, a biographical movie about an opera singer's recovery from polio. That same year, he played a supporting role in The King's Thief starring Anne Blyth, Edmund Purdom, David Niven and George Sanders. In the 1956 film Diane, Moore was billed third again, this time under Lana Turner and Pedro Armendáriz, in a 16th-century period piece set in France with Moore playing Prince Henry, the future king. Moore was released from his MGM contract after only 2 years following the film's critical and commercial failure. Warner Bros. It. After that, he spent a few years mainly doing one-shot parts in television series, including an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents in 1959 titled The Avon Emeralds. He signed another long-term contract to a studio, this time to Warner Brothers. His starring role in The Miracle, 1959, a version of the play Das Mirakel for Warner Brothers showcasing Carol Baker as a nun, had been turned down by Dirk Bogarde. That same year, Moore was directed by Arthur Hiller in The Angry Young Man, an episode of the television series The Third Man starring Michael Rennie as criminal mastermind Harry Lime, the role portrayed by Orson Welles in the film version. Television series, 1958 to 1972. Edit Ivanhoe, 1958-1959. Edit. Eventually, Moore made his name in television. He was the eponymous hero, Sir Wilfrid of Ivanhoe, in the 1958-59 series Ivanhoe, a loose adaptation of the 1819 romantic novel by Sir Walter Scott shot set in the 12th century during the era of Richard the Lionheart, delving into Ivanhoe's conflict with Prince John. Shot mainly in England at Elstree Studios in Buckinghamshire, some of the show was also filmed in California due to a partnership with Columbia Studios' Screen Gems. Aimed at younger audiences, the pilot was filmed in color, a reflection of its comparatively high budget for a British children's adventure series of the period, but subsequent episodes were shot in black and white. Moore suffered broken ribs and a battle-axe blow to his helmet while performing some of his own stunts filming a season of 39 half-hour episodes, and later reminisced, "I felt a complete Charlie riding around in all that armor and damned stupid plumed helmet. I felt like a medieval fireman." The Alaskans, 1959-1960. Edit. Moore's next television series involved playing the lead as Silky Harris for the ABC, Warner Brothers 1959-60 Western The Alaskans, with co-stars Dorothy Provine as Rocky, Jeff York as Reno and Ray Danton as Nifty. The show ran for a single season of 37-hour-long episodes on Sunday nights. Though set in Skagway, Alaska, with a focus on the Klondike Gold Rush in around 1896, the series was filmed in the hot studio lot at Warner Brothers in Hollywood with the cast costumed in fur coats and hats. Moore found the work highly taxing and his off-camera affair with Provine complicated matters even more. He subsequently appeared as the questionable character 14-Karat John in the two-part episode Right Off the Boat of the ABC, WB crime drama The Roaring Twenties, with Rex Reason, John Denner, Gary Vinson and Dorothy Provine, appearing in a similar role but with a different character name. Maverick, 1960-1961. Edit. In the wake of the Alaskans, Moore was cast as Beau Maverick, an English-accented cousin of frontier gamblers Brett Maverick, James Garner, Bart Maverick, Jack Kelly, and Brent Maverick, Robert Colbert. In the much more successful ABC, WB Western series Maverick, Sean Connery was flown over from England to test for the part but turned it down. He had also filmed a Maverick episode with Garner 2 seasons earlier in which Moore played a different character in a retooling of Richard Brinsley Sheridan's 1775 comedy of manners play entitled The Rivals. In the course of the story, Moore's and Garner's characters switched names on a bet, with Moore consequently identifying himself as Brett Maverick through most of the episode. Moore's debut as Beau Maverick occurred in the first episode of the 1960-61 fourth season, The Bundle from Britain, one of 4 episodes in which he shared screen time with cousin Bart, Jack Kelly. Robert Altman wrote and directed Bolt from the Blue, an episode featuring Will Hutchins as a frontier lawyer similar to his character in the series Sugarfoot, and Red Dog found Beau mixed up with vicious bank robbers Lee Van Cleef and John Carradine. Kathleen Crowley was Moore's leading lady in 2 episodes, Bullet for the Teacher and KIZ, and others included Mala Powers, Roxanne Berard, Face Payne, Mary Anders, Andra Martin and Gene Cooper. Upon leaving the series, Moore cited a decline in script quality since the Garner era as the key factor in his decision to depart. The Saint, 1962-1969. Edit. Worldwide fame arrived after Lou Grade cast Moore as Simon Templar in a new adaptation of The Saint, based on the novels by Leslie Charteris. Moore said in an interview in 1963 that he wanted to buy the rights to Leslie Charteris's character and the trademarks. He also joked that the role was supposed to have been meant for Sean Connery, who was unavailable. The television series was made in the UK with an eye to the American market, and its success there, and in other countries, made Moore a household name. By spring 1967 he had achieved international stardom. The series also established his suave, quipping style which he carried forward to James Bond. Moore went on to direct several episodes of the later series, which moved into color in 1967. The Saint ran from 1962 for 6 seasons and 118 episodes, making it, in a tie with The Avengers, the longest-running series of its kind on British television. However, Moore grew increasingly tired of the role, and was keen to branch out. He made 2 films immediately after the series had ended, Crossplot, a lightweight, spy caper movie, and the more challenging The Man Who Haunted Himself, 1970. Directed by Basil Dearden, it gave Moore the opportunity to demonstrate a wider versatility than the role of Simon Templar had allowed, although reviews at the time were lukewarm, and both did little business at the box office. The Persuaders, 1971-1972. Edit. Television lured Moore back to star alongside Tony Curtis in The Persuaders. The show featured the adventures of 2 millionaire playboys across Europe. Moore was paid the then unheard of sum of £1 million for a single series, making him the highest-paid television actor in the world. However, Lou Grade claimed in his autobiography Still Dancing, that Moore and Curtis didn't hit it off all that well. Curtis refused to spend more time on set than was strictly necessary, while Moore was always willing to work overtime. According to the DVD commentary, neither Roger Moore, an uncredited co-producer, nor Robert S. Baker, the credited producer, ever had a contract other than a handshake with Lou Grade. They produced the entire entire 24 episodes without a single written word guaranteeing that they would ever be paid. The series failed in America, where it had been pre-sold to ABC, but it was successful in Europe and Australia. In Germany, where the series was aired under the name Die Zwei, the two, it became a hit through especially amusing dubbing which only barely used translations of the original dialogue. In Britain it was also popular, although on its premiere on the ITV network, it was beaten in the ratings by repeats of Monty Python's Flying Circus on BBC One. Channel 4 repeated both The Avengers and The Persuaders in 1995. Since then, The Persuaders has been issued on DVD, while in France, where the series, entitled Amicalement Votre, had always been popular, the DVD releases accompanied a monthly magazine of the same name. True Entertainment are now showing the entire series from start to finish. James Bond era, 1973 to 1985. Edit James Bond films edit. Because of his commitment to several television shows, in particular the long-lasting series The Saint, Roger Moore was unavailable for the James Bond franchise for a considerable time. His participation in The Saint was not only as actor, but also as a producer and director, and he also became involved in developing the series The Persuaders. Although, in 1964, he made a guest appearance as James Bond in the comedy series Mainly Millicent, Moore stated in his autobiography My Word Is My Bond, 2008, that he had neither been approached to play the character in Dr. No, nor does he feel that he had ever been considered. It was only after Sean Connery had declared in 1966 that he would not play Bond any longer that Moore became aware that he might be a contender for the role. However, after George Lazenby was cast in 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service and Connery played Bond again in Diamonds Are Forever, 1971, Moore did not consider the possibility until it seemed abundantly clear that Connery had in fact stepped down as Bond for good. At that point Moore was approached, and he accepted producer Albert Broccoli's offer in August 1972. In his autobiography Moore writes that he had to cut his hair and lose weight for the role. Although he resented having to make those changes, he was finally cast as James Bond in Live and Let Die, 1973. After Live and Let Die, Moore continued to portray Bond in The Man with the Golden Gun, 1974, The Spy Who Loved Me, 1977, Moonraker, 1979, For Your Eyes Only, 1981, Octopussy, 1983, and A View to a Kill, 1985. Moore was the oldest actor to have played Bond. He was 45 in Live and Let Die, 1973, and 58 when he announced his retirement on the 3rd of December 1985. Moore's Bond was very different from the version created by Ian Fleming. Screenwriters like George MacDonald Fraser provided scenarios in which Moore was cast as a seasoned, debonair playboy who would always have a trick or gadget in stock when he needed it. This was designed to serve the contemporary taste of the 1970s. Moore's version of Bond was also known for his sense of humor and witty one-liners, but also a skilled detective with a cunning mind. In 2004, Moore was voted Best Bond in an Academy Awards poll, and he won with 62 of votes in another poll in 2008. In 1987 he hosted Happy Anniversary 007, 25 Years of James Bond. Other films during Bond are Reddit. During Moore's Bond period he starred in 13 other movies, beginning with a thriller featuring Susanna York, entitled Gold, 1974. He even made a cameo as Chief Inspector Clouseau, posing as a famous movie star, in Curse of the Pink Panther, 1983, for which he was credited as Turk Thrust 2. However, most of these films were neither critically acclaimed nor commercially successful. Moore was widely criticized for making 3 movies in South Africa under the apartheid regime during the 1970s, Gold, Shout at the Devil, and The Wild Geese. Post-James Bond career, 1986 to 2017, edit Moore did not act on screen for 5 years after he stopped playing Bond. In 1990 he appeared in several films and in the writer-director Michael Feeney Callan's television series My Riviera and starred in the film Bed and Breakfast which was shot in 1989, and also had a large role in the 1996 film The Quest. In 1997 he starred as the chief in Spice World. At the age of 73, he played an amorous homosexual man in Boat Trip, 2002, and, although the film was critically panned, Moore's comedic performance was singled out by many critics and viewers as the one of the few enjoyable aspects of it. The British comedy show Spitting Image once had a sketch in which their latex likeness of Moore, when asked to display emotions by an off-screen director, did nothing but raise an eyebrow. Moore himself stated that he thought the sketch was funny and took it in good humor. Indeed, he had always embraced the eyebrows gag wholeheartedly, slyly claiming that he He only had 3 expressions as Bond: right eyebrow raised, left eyebrow raised and eyebrows crossed when grabbed by Jaws. Spitting Image continued the joke, featuring a Bond film spoof, The Man with the Wooden Delivery, with Moore's puppet receiving orders from Margaret Thatcher to kill Mikhail Gorbachev. Other comedy shows at that time ridiculed Moore's acting, with Rory Bremner once claiming to have had a death threat from one of his irate fans, following one such routine. In 2009, Moore appeared in an advertisement for the post office. He also played the role of a secret agent in the Victoria Wood Christmas special on BBC One show over the festive period in the same year, filming all his scenes in the London Eye. His mission was to eliminate another agent whose file photo looks just like Pierce Brosnan. In 2010, Moore provided the voice of a talking cat called Lazenby in the film Cats and Dogs: The Revenge of Kitty Galore, which contained several references to, and parodies of, Bond films. In 2011, Moore co-starred in the film A Princess for Christmas with Katie McGrath and Sam Heughan, and in 2012 he took to the stage for a series of 7 evenings with, in UK theatres, and, in November, guest hosted Have I Got News for You. In 2015, Moore was named one of GQ's 50 best dressed British men. Humanitarian work. Moore's friend Audrey Hepburn had impressed him with her work for UNICEF, and consequently he became a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador in 1991. He was the voice of Father Christmas, or Santa, in the 2004 UNICEF cartoon The Fly Who Loved Me. Moore was involved in the production of a video for PETA that protests against the production and wholesale of foie gras. Moore narrates the video. His assistance in this situation, and being a strong spokesman against foie gras, led to the department store Selfridges agreeing to remove foie gras from their shelves. Personal life. Edit. Dorn Van Steen. Edit. In 1946, aged 18, Moore married a fellow RADA student, the actress and ice skater Dorn Van Steen, born Lucy Woodard, 1922 to 2010. Moore and Van Steen lived in Streatham with her family, but tension over money matters and her lack of confidence in his acting ability took their toll on the relationship, during which he allegedly suffered domestic abuse. Dorothy Squires said it. In 1952, Moore met the Welsh singer Dorothy Squires, who was 13 years his senior, and Van Steen and Moore divorced the following year. Squires and Moore were married in New York. They lived in Bexley, Kent after their marriage. They moved to the United States in 1954 to develop their careers, but tensions developed in their marriage due to their age differences and Moore's infatuation with starlet Dorothy Provine, and they moved back to the United Kingdom in 1961. Squires suffered a series of miscarriages during their marriage, and Moore later said the outcome of their marriage might have been different if they had been able to have children. In their tempestuous relationship, Squires smashed a guitar over his head, and after learning of his affair with the Italian actress Luisa Mattioli, who became Moore's third wife, Moore said that she threw a brick through my window. The numerous legal cases launched by Squires led her to be declared a vexatious litigant in 1988. Moore paid Squires' hospital bills after her cancer treatment in 1996, and upon her death in 1998. Luisa Mattioli. In 1961, while filming The Rape of the Sabine Women in Italy, Moore left Squires for the Italian actress Luisa Mattioli. Squires refused to accept their separation, and sued Moore for loss of conjugal rights, but Moore refused the court's order to return to Squires in 28 days. Squires also smashed windows at a house in France where Moore and Mattioli were living, and unsuccessfully sued actor Kenneth Moore for libel, as Moore had introduced Moore and Mattioli at a charity event as Mr. Roger Moore and his wife. Moore and Mattioli lived together until 1969, when Squires finally granted him a divorce, after they had been separated for 7 years. At Moore and Mattioli's marriage in April 1969 at the Caxton Hall in Westminster, London, a crowd of 600 people were outside, with women screaming his name. Moore had 3 children with Mattioli, actress daughter Deborah, born 1963, whose work includes an Oldsmobile commercial, "This is not your father's Oldsmobile, this is a new generation of Olds," 2 sons, Jeffrey and Christian. Jeffrey is also an actor, and appeared alongside his father in the 1976 film Sherlock Holmes in New York. In later life he co-founded Hush Restaurant in Mayfair, London, with Jamie Barber. Jeffrey and his wife Lulu have 2 daughters. Moore's younger son, Christian, is a film producer. Christina Kiki Tholstrup. Edit. Moore and Mattioli separated in 1993 after Moore developed feelings for a Swedish-born Danish socialite, Christina Kiki Tholstrup. Moore later described his prostate cancer diagnosis in 1993 as life-changing, which led him to reassess his life and marriage. Mattioli and Tholstrup had long been friends, but Mattioli was scathing of her in the book she subsequently wrote about her relationship with Moore, Nothing Lasts Forever, describing how she felt betrayed by Tholstrup and discarded by Moore. Moore remained silent on his divorce from Mattioli, later saying that he did not wish to hurt his children by engaging in a war of words. Moore's children refused to speak to him for a period after the divorce, but they were later reconciled with their father. Mattioli refused to grant Moore a divorce until 2000, when a £10 million settlement was agreed. Moore subsequently married Tholstrup in 2002. Moore would later say that he loved Tholstrup as she was organized, serene, loving and calm, saying that I have a difficult life. I rely on Christina totally. When we are traveling for my job, she is the one who packs. Christina takes care of all that. Moore also said that his marriage to Tholstrup was a tranquil relationship. There are no arguments. Tholstrup had a daughter, Christina Knudsen, from a previous relationship. Knudsen described her stepfather as a positive influence, saying I was in difficult relationships but that all changed when her mother met Moore. Moore's stepdaughter Christina Knudsen died from cancer on the 25th of July 2016, at the age of 47. Moore posted on Twitter that we are heartbroken and we were all with her, surrounding her with love, at the end. Political alignment The BBC listed Moore prior to the 2001 UK general election as a celebrity backer of the British Conservative Party. In 2011, Moore gave his support to Conservative Prime Minister David Cameron regarding his policy on the European Union, stating, I think he's doing absolutely wonderfully well, despite the opposition from many members of his own party. Traitors, I call them. I mean any hardliner within the Conservative Party who speaks out against their leader. You should support your leader. Tax exiled Moore became a tax exile from the United Kingdom in 1978, originally to Switzerland, and divided his year between his three homes, an apartment in Monte Carlo, Monaco, a chalet in Crans, Montana, Switzerland, and a home in the south of France. Moore became a resident of Monaco, having been appointed a goodwill ambassador of Monaco by Prince Albert II for his efforts in internationally promoting and publicizing the principality. Moore was scathing of the Russian population in Monaco, saying that I'm afraid we're overstuffed with Russians. All the restaurant menus are in Russian now. Moore said in 2011 that his decision to live abroad was not about tax. That's a serious part of it. I come back to England often enough not to miss it, to see the changes, to find some of the changes good. I paid my taxes at the time that I was earning a decent income, so I've paid my due. Health and death Moore nearly died from double pneumonia when he was 5. He had an infection of his foreskin at the age of 8 and underwent a circumcision, and had his appendix, tonsils, and adenoids removed. In 1993, Moore was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and underwent successful surgery for the disease. Moore collapsed on stage while appearing on Broadway in 2003, and was fitted with a pacemaker to treat a potentially deadly slow heartbeat. In 2012, Moore revealed he had been treated for skin cancer several times. He was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2013, which left him unable to drink alcohol. His family announced his death in Switzerland from cancer on the 23rd of May 2017. Royal Circles. Moore had friendships with some of Denmark's royal family. Prince Joachim and his then-wife Alexandra, Countess of Frederiksborg, invited him and his wife Kiki to attend the christening of their youngest son, Prince Felix. On the 24th of May 2008, he and his wife attended the wedding of Prince Joachim to his French fiancée Marie Cavalier. He also had a long-standing friendship with Princess Lilian of Sweden, whom he first met on a visit to Stockholm for UNICEF. Moore's wife Christina, who was born in Sweden, was already a friend of Princess Lilian through mutual friends. In his autobiography, Moore recalled meeting the princess for tea and dinners whenever he and his wife visited Stockholm. He spoke of his recollections at the princess's memorial service at the English Church in Stockholm on the 8th of September 2013. On 1 and the 2nd of July 2011, he and his wife attended the wedding of Prince Albert of Monaco and Charlene Wittstock. Honor said it On the 9th of March 1999, Moore was appointed a Commander of the Order of the British Empire (CBE) and promoted to Knight Commander of the same order (KBE) on the 14th of June 2003. The citation on the knighthood was for Moore's charity work, which dominated his public life for more than a decade. Moore said that the citation recognition meant far more to me than if I had got it for acting. I was proud because I received it on behalf of UNICEF as a whole and for all it has achieved over the years. On the 11th of October 2007, 3 days before he turned 80, Moore was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for his work on television and in film. Attending the ceremony were family, friends, and Richard Keel, with whom he had acted in The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. Moore's star was the 2,350th star installed, and is appropriately located at 7007 Hollywood Boulevard. On the 28th of October 2008, the French government appointed Moore a commander of the Ordre des Arts et des Lettres. On the 21st of November 2012, Moore was awarded an honorary doctorate from the University of Hertfordshire, for his outstanding contributions to the UK film and television industry for over 50 years, in particular film and television productions in Hertfordshire. Publications did Moore wrote a book about the filming of Live and Let Die, based on his diaries. Roger Moore as James Bond. Roger Moore's own account of filming Live and Let Die was published in London in 1973, by Pan Books. The book includes an acknowledgement to Sean Connery, with whom Moore was friends for many years. I would also like to thank Sean Connery, with whom it would not have been possible. Moore's autobiography My Word Is My Bond, ISBN 0061673889, was published by Collins in the US in November 2008. It was published in the UK by Michael O'Mara Books Limited on the 2nd of October 2008, ISBN 9784843173182. On the 16th of October 2012, Bond on Bond was published to tie in with the 50th anniversary of the James Bond films. The book, with many pictures, is based on Moore's own memories, thoughts, and anecdotes about all things 007. Award said it for his charity work. 2007, Dag Hammarskjöld Inspiration Award, UNICEF. 2004, UNICEF's Audrey Hepburn Humanitarian Award. 2003, German Federal Cross of Merit, Bundesverdienstkreuz, for his UNICEF work. 2003, Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire. 1999, Commander of the Order of the British Empire, CBE, Lifetime Achievements Awards. 2008, Commander of the French National Order of Arts and Letters, Ordre National des Arts et des Lettres. 2007, Hollywood Walk of Fame. 2004, TELEKAMERA, Teletidzian Lifetime Achievement Award, Poland. 2002, Monte Carlo TV Festival, Lifetime Achievement Award. 2001, Lifetime Achievement Award, Filmfestival, Jamaica. 1997, Palm Springs Film Festival, USA, Lifetime Achievement Award. 1995, Telegato, Italian TV, Lifetime Achievement Award. 1991, Golden Camera, German TV, Lifetime Achievement Award. 1990, Bambi, Lifetime Achievement Award from the German magazine Bund, for his acting. 1981, Otto, Most Popular Film Star, from German magazine Bravo. 1980, Saturn Award, Most Popular International Performer. 1980, Golden Globe, World Film Favorite Male. 1973, Bambi, shared with Tony Curtis for The Persuaders, from the German magazine Bund. 1973, Best Actor in TV, award from the French magazine TELE7JOURS, shared with Tony Curtis for The Persuaders. 1967, Ondas Award, Spanish TV for The Saint. 1967, Otto, Most Popular TV Star for The Saint, from German magazine Bravo. Bibliography. Roger Moore as James Bond. Roger Moore's own account of filming Live and Let Die. 1973, My Word Is My Bond, The Autobiography. 2008, ISBN 9781843173878. Bond on Bond, The Ultimate Book on 50 Years of Bond Movies. 2012, ISBN 9781843178613. Last Man Standing, published as One Lucky Bastard in the United States. 2014, ISBN 9782782432074. Filmography. References. External links. Official site, UNICEF profile, Roger Moore at the Internet Movie Database, Roger Moore at the Internet Broadway Database.